Shake down the thunder from the sky.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Swans Bigfooty Podcast. My name is Bonz. Tonight we have the return of Punts.
How are you guys?
And Vonn.
Hello.
Now we're going to go straight into the preview of the Hawks game. Punts, you want to take us away?
Yeah, it's obviously going to be a big game. What is it, 1v3? Winner will probably percentage, 139, 142, so probably most likely the winner will either stay on top or Hawthorn will probably stay on top. We've got Geelong breathing down our necks now, so you can pretty much go from 1 to 3rd. It's going to be a massive game at the MCG. I'm pretty sure it's Roughhead's 200th, if I'm correct. So big game for him and the club. They're obviously going to try and get one back on us for last time. Their side might be a little bit better than last time with Mitchell and Hodge back in. So it's going to be a very tough game. Hopefully we can get Tippett back in to try and stretch him down back, because I think if we can get Buddy higher up the ground, pretty much exactly what we did last time with Buddy roaming around the 50 and Tippett one out with Showmakers, I think he'll beat Showmakers most times. And obviously Gibson's their best third man up, and they're saying he'll be back, so we need Buddy to really drag him up the ground and get him isolated one-on-one, because Buddy, 270 kicked the last time, so he still had 9 shots on goal, so I'd say that he towed up Gibson last time. So if we can get that happening again, a few key matchups, I think we really need to focus in on Gunston. His form at the moment's really, really good. I think he gave Adelaide a bit of a touch-up. I think, obviously, I'd probably think Rampy would go to him, so he's got a big job, Rampy or Laidler. I think they'll start off with Rampy.
That's only if they play Hale. If they don't play Hale and they're only coming in with one ruckman.
They got Segler
and McAvoy, yeah.
And I think they'll stick with that, so obviously Grundy will get the rest in ruck, and Richards will probably get Ruffy, so I'm presuming Rampy will probably go to Gunston, because I remember last time Laidler was actually running around with Bruce. I know they had Rioli in that night, so Smith was probably to Rioli, but obviously, Laidler took a small last time, which either way, Rampy or Laidler can go to Gunston. I just think maybe Rampy's got a little bit more leg speed than Laidler. I know Cunningham did a defensive forward role in Suckling. I don't know if they'll go that way this time. They might have to put him on. I know Hill gave us a bit of a touch-up. We'll give Jetta a bit of a touch-up.
He'll be returning to the side this week, most likely. So
yeah, and he gave Jetta a bit of a touch-up last time in the first half. So maybe Cunningham to run around with Hill, or maybe even Cunningham to go to Mitchell as a defensive half forward, with Mitchell playing off half back. That could be another option. Stick Cunningham on Mitchell. Obviously Burgoyne pretty much nearly got him over the line last time again. I think he needs a bit of attention. Can't let him. I'm not too worried. A lot of people say, "I'll put someone on Hodge." I'm not too worried about Hodge. I don't think he's the player that he once was. So I'd be more worried about Burgoyne getting on top. He just, every time they've seemed to put him in the middle, he seems to get the clearances or just gets him going forward. So I think obviously Bird got him, I think, in the last quarter last time and kept him pretty quiet. So maybe a little bit of a look in with Bird on Burgoyne. But as I said, it's going to be a massive game at the MCG, and obviously Buddy back there, and it's going to be huge. I just hope we can get back Hanbury and Tippett, go to a long way to winning. So yeah,
it's going to be an interesting match. Like, they've got as many injuries as they've had, they've still got some pretty damn good depth in their side. Like, I know we've had decent depth all year, but when you can bring up players who have been in and out, like Langford, as your 6th, 7th option down, that's pretty incredible. So even if they didn't get the likes of Gibson back, I wouldn't be taking them lightly for a second. It's going to be I'm worried about this match.
Yeah.
Vonn, what are your thoughts on the game?
First of all, let's not have Punts go first, because he's taken a few of my points that I wanted to say. Obviously, with the results this weekend, so many upsets, this really, really opens up a chance for us to cement a spot in the top two. So I don't even really need to go on about how crucial a win is. In terms of the ins and outs, for me, I think even with their injuries, Bonz, as you touched on, their lineup is so even across the ground. The only thing that we can really exploit is our greatest strength, which is our forward line, because with Lake out and Gibson Rush back, he hasn't really played, he doesn't have any match fitness. We can definitely run off him, especially given how agile our forwards are. So, yeah, for me, I feel like we break even with them in a lot of areas. They probably have the advantage over us in the ruck department, but we've shown in the past that hit-outs, they don't really bother us because our midfield is good enough to shark the taps. So for me, it's how well our forward line gels together and how well they play. If Tippett is indeed brought back, and I believe he should be, then it's going to be a huge advantage. Before he went down with injury, he was the number one. He had the highest conversion rate with all the opportunities he had been given in the AFL this year to date. So if he can come back, then that would be a huge asset.
It's going to be interesting, our ins and outs this week. I mean, Shaw won't be. I don't think we'll bring back in Shaw. I think we'll give him another week's rest. But we're going to have to find two players to drop for, obviously, Tippett and Hanbury. And they're two damn good ins. You'd think that Towers is obviously going to go. But after that, it's really going to depend on how they're planning on lining up, whether we're going to drop Jack or if we're going to maybe drop out Rowan as well.
No, I think Brandon Jack and Towers will make way for Hanbury and Tippett. I think Gary Rowan will play a full game off half back. They've gone with the 7 defenders all year since pretty much after the Collingwood game, so I can't see him dropping Rowan and not going with the 6 defenders back. I think they're stuck on the 7 defenders now, So I think if Shaw doesn't come in, which I don't think he will, I think Rowan will play a full game off half back like last week because, as I said, I just can't see him changing anything around. They'll go with the 7 defenders, and either Lloyd or Cunningham will go back to being sub. Pretty much the exact same team besides Shaw as we played against them last time.
Can you see Shaw or even Jones coming back into the team?
I don't want to see Shaw back. I don't want to bring in 3 guys who haven't played in over 2 weeks all back in one go.
Yeah,
it's just too big a risk.
Yeah, I agree. That's one. I thought Rowan's second half last week he showed a fair bit. A couple of his intercept spoils and his ball use and a couple of his. And I think maybe in the first half he was trying too hard with his tackles, but I think he's still a bit iffy on his spot. So I think the second half he really showed. And as you said, bringing in 3 players against Hawthorn, it's a bit of a risk. And as I said, I think they're going to stick with the 7 defenders. They're not going to go back to 6. So I think Rowan will play a full game, and one of Cunningham and Lloyd will go back to being the sub, and we'll pretty much have the same side beside Shaw as we had last time against them and what we've been playing with Jones. He's been out for 2 games now, and
one game, isn't it? The other game was subbed out.
Yeah, and then he missed with an Achilles last week, so he didn't play obviously there was no NFL on the weekend. So I don't think he'll come straight back into the first. I think he'll play in the 2s. I can't see how after Rowan's game they drop Rowan for Jones after Jones has missed or hasn't played a game in 3 weeks pretty much.
Okay. So, who do you see coming in and out of the Hawthorn team? I mean, obviously you're going to be looking at Gibson and Hill. Do you believe they'll make any more changes or just bring in the 2 of them?
I think they'll just bring in the 2. Yeah, they've already declared them fit, I'm pretty sure. I think Newbold even said on the radio the other day that they've declared Gibson and Hill both fit. So they reckon Hill could have played on the weekend. He was touch and go. Now he's had that week off and an extra week. You'd think that I think Gibson's been training for about 3 or 4 weeks now. So them 2 will come in, and I don't know who they'll drop out.
Over on the Hawthorn board, I don't even know what team that is. Over on the Hawthorn board, they pretty much confirm what you said, Punts, that Gibson has been doing full training for 3 weeks now, and Gibson pretty much himself confirmed that he will be playing this weekend. As for who I drop back, I don't pretend to know enough about depth of their list enough to make that kind of call.
Off the top of my leagues and ins and out this year, you're looking at the likes of, it's going to be either. Look, I think Langford was really good against Adelaide, and I'm not sure if they'll drop him, but he'd be one of the next in line, along with probably Ross and Liverland. So it's going to be two of those three, maybe Doria or something, but look, they've got some serious depth and talent to their team. Like, some of the defensive matchups we're going to have to make this week are going to be really important. I mean, you've got Roughhead, you've got a resting ruckman, either Segler or McAvoy. You're going to have Gunner up forward as well, so it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
I've got to say, I agree with Punts though. I don't really think Roughhead has been in great form at all. I think he's been very quiet. And even if it is his milestone match coming forward, I don't really see him as too big a problem because, you know, we have Richards, we have Grundy. They've handled better forwards than him in the past. And Roughhead's never really troubled us except when they had Franklin to use as a decoy. I personally don't think he's coping that well with the role as the main target at Hawthorn, but that's just me personally.
How do you see us lining up in defence from? Like, okay, so you've got Roughhead, you've got Gunston, you've got Bruce, Hill possibly coming back into the team, arresting Ruckman. Who do you see make the defensive matchups being?
Well, obviously, I'd probably put... I don't know, I'm kind of tempted to say I'd put Grundy on Roughhead and have Richards as kind of a loose player to... Sorry, I would have Richards on their resting ruckman so that he can come over and give Grundy support. I personally just feel like Grundy is a little bit better one-on-one. I don't know if you guys feel that, and I feel like Grundy has had the better year this year.
I'd agree with that completely. Grundy's had a fantastic year. I can't think of too many games where he's actually been beaten. It'll be interesting, actually. I'm just thinking about the likely matchups. I mean, you can't see... I'd almost feel safer having Laidler on the resting ruckman and having Richards on Gunston. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's interesting. Because, let's be honest, Segler and McAvoy aren't big. They're not like Hale. They don't really take that many marks down forward. So, as you said, Laidler could probably get the job and just bring the ball to ground.
McAvoy's taken a few up forward before, though.
Yeah, I don't think they're no Hale, but that's my opinion. But maybe you could get away with Laidler on one of the resting ruck, have Richards on Gunston and Grundy on
Ruffy.
Yeah, Ruffy.
It's going to be interesting. Who do you see? Well,
I think Palopolo will get a defensive half-forward role in Malcheski.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. They're not going to allow Malcheski to run loose this week.
Nah, so I think Malcheski will get. I think Palopolo will probably get a defensive half-forward role on him.
If you were Longmire, would you be putting McVeigh this weekend?
Still half-forward. Yeah, half-forward rotating through the mid. I don't think it has to change. He's done his job there this year. I think I've always said that he's a better forward than he is, even though he was always shown half-back, but we don't need him in half-back anymore. So I don't know, he'd be wasted up half-back, and his goal sense and his ball use inside of that 50 is, second to none. So I'd rather him in the forward line than in the back line.
Okay, and can you see anyone from Hawthorn? Can you see Hawthorn trying to put someone up one-on-one against Kennedy, or do you reckon they'll use a group job?
I think they'll use a group job. They did use.
Well, it was Langford, wasn't it, last time?
Langford?
No, I don't think he played. It was
Litherland or Langford? Which one is it?
It would have been
Someone
Liverpool. I don't think Langford played against us last time.
One of them, one of the blonde-headed fella, he ran around with Kennedy.
It'll be interesting to see. Do you reckon they'll go with the same matchup or?
Nah, because Kennedy touched him up, so I can't see that happening.
It's gonna be interesting. How do you actually see the Vonn? You know? I think we've lost Vonn. Punts?
Yep. She's out of there.
She's gone. How do you see Pike going up in the ruck against Segler and McAvoy?
Well, we had Derek's. We did have Derek. Derek's played last game, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yep. Pike's a better ruckman than Derek, so I wouldn't say both. I wouldn't say Segler or McAvoy in great form. So, as I said, Sam Reid only has to do his 5 minutes a quarter in there, and I know they won't stick Tippett in there because I don't know what's to go with that bloke, but he just seems to fall apart all the time. But yeah, I think Pike will do the job. I got no issue with. Not too worried about their ruckman at all. Really, I don't think they hurt you that bad. I've even heard the Hawthorn people say that McAvoy hasn't been the greatest trade, so I'm not too concerned about their ruckman. I'm happy for Pike. I know Pike got a bit of a touch up against West Coast against their two ruckmen, but he did play. He killed Warnock last weekend. I think he was about 8 centimetres shorter. So I got no problem with their rucks at all. Really, I think Pike will stand up and stick Reedy in there for 5 minutes a quarter. He won't win a tap, but he'll make a contest.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, actually, how we deploy Reed this week. If we're actually going to try and force them to stretch their defence further, or if we're going to use him around the ground and possibly as a loose player in defence. Like, he's been in great form up forward, Reed, recently, and as I say, I'd be worried about... Sean Makers has done some really good roles on him before, but I think Sean Makers is going to have to get to Tippett or Franklin.
Yeah, well, definitely. With Lake being out, it's pretty obvious that Showmakers will have to go to Tippett like he did last time, and you'd probably
unless they bring in Cheney.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that.
Fingers crossed, eh?
Yeah, and then Gibson will obviously get the job on Buddy, which again, when we isolated both of them last game, Buddy was taking marks over his head and still had 9 shots on goal. So he makes that 7-2, and it makes the outcome a lot different. So I think they'll try and isolate both Buddy and Gibson and isolate Tippett and Showmakers. Obviously, Gibson is the best third man up probably in the competition, but he ain't going to get that luxury this week with Buddy, Tippett and Reid. I think Stratton will probably have to run around with Reid. Oh, actually, Spanger's playing.
Yeah, Spang.
So you probably think Spanger might get the job on. So you probably think Showmakers will get the job on Tippett, Gibson on Buddy, and maybe Spanger on Reid and
Who would you put
Stratton
on
on Goods, I'm presuming.
Yeah.
They'll probably have to put Stratton on Goods, and Hodge will probably be that loose man in defence coming across and helping out. But as you said, if we can isolate them and not bomb it in there like we have the last few weeks, I know we haven't had Tippett, but if we can isolate them, I think they'll be in a bit of trouble without Lake. And going forward, we're just going to have to go in their forwards. We're just going to have to really keep an eye on their biggest danger at the moment is Gunston. He's just in great form, and he's good at ground level. He's good in the air. He's just really hard matchup. So maybe, as you said, you could put Lather on a resting ruck and stick your best defender and Richards on almost agile defender on Gunston. That could be a way, and you've got Bruce as well, which you probably think with Rioli being out, you probably think Smith's probably going to get the job on Bruce. You've still got Simpkin play on the weekend.
Simpkin, I'm just trying to think. It was 2 weeks ago. Sorry, one sec. Simpkin. I think he did actually. He was sub, wasn't he? No, I think 2 weeks. 3 weeks. No, Simpkin didn't play. Oh, no, yes, he did. Yes, he did. He had 24 disposals, 2 goals. That's right. Yeah, Simpkin played.
Because he actually gave
recently.
Shaw a bit of a touch-up last game. He he gave Shaw a bit of a touch-up last game. Lucky he didn't kick straight, otherwise they might have got over the line. Shaw was a bit off that game. He let him mark everything. So he's another one that you probably got to keep an eye out on. But I really think you've got to. I think Burgoyne's the one for me. He's just every time they seem to put him in the middle against us, he just gets clearance after clearance and nearly pulls him over the line. So I think Birdie's going to have to do maybe a job on him and Hill.
What's your final prediction for this weekend?
Bird and
What's your prediction?
I think Swans by 3 goals.
3 goals?
Yep.
Okay, and your worst nightmare for the weekend?
What are we? 6 weeks out from the finals. Injuries. It's pretty simple.
Seem to be pretty cursive recently.
No more injuries. We just need a good run. We need Tippett and these guys to start getting in the side and getting some continuity into their game, because it's just Tippett's in for 1 and out for 5. It just needs to get back in there.
Okay, well, and your sure thing?
Oh, my sure thing is my sure thing is if Tippett plays, he'll kick 5 on Showmakers.
5? Jeez, confident
5.
for you. Usually you're the doomsayer.
Yep, no, he'll kick 5 on Showmakers.
Okay then, my nightmare for the weekend is a loss of over 40 points. My sure thing is Adam Goods to kick 3 goals. And my final tip for the weekend is the Swans by 13 points. We'll be down at 3/4 time to get up. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening to this week's edition of the Swans Bigfooty Podcast. My name is Bonz. Tonight I've been joined by Punts.
There goes.
And Vonn.
Bye.
Thanks, guys, and have a good night.